What's up, everyone? I got a couple awesome guests here with me right now. We got Isaiah Serena and George Schmieder, two of the three coaches of Team Alien Dual Team. The third, Rincando Cole, you guys might know him better as Mooney. He cannot be here right now, but luckily we still got two of the three coaches, so we're still rolling deep. How you guys doing?
Not bad. Good. Hanging in there. Getting ready for this fall season. We got Thousand Island Duels next. Preparing for Ultimate Club Duels that we did take third and fourth in freestyle in the spring. And then we're going to go right into Columbus Duels the next month after that. And then finish off the season. Probably most likely we're going to do the Tyrant Crusaders since our NHSAA Fall Duels is canceled this year.
Yeah, dude, I heard about that. That's rough. Kind of stupid, honestly.
Definitely. I like the event.
We did really well last fall too. And him and I, we talk about it all the time. It's like, people want to take a vacation. We don't get to do that. So our vacation is we get to go to Virginia Beach 3 times a year, which
yeah.
Sure we get to enjoy it, but for the most part, when you're traveling with 2 or 3 teams, you got a lot of responsibilities. You got a lot of stuff on your plate, and we're still young. We're not even, neither of us have even touched 30. And we're still out here, and we get the craziest looks from parents, but most of the people that have done an event with Team Alien, most of the people say that they had a great time and they had a great experience, and that's all that matters to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear that's kind of what the sport of wrestling does, kind of gives you that escape, allows you to travel these places. Like you said, Virginia Beach 3 times a year. Like I don't even get to go to Virginia Beach 1 time a year, usually. So yeah. That's awesome.
It's definitely a blessing. I say it all the time. I love the way we travel and stuff like that. It's definitely demanding, but at the end of the day, we do a good job. It took a while. Trust us. We're still trying to learn.
It wasn't easy. Definitely on my part, I do a lot of more in the managing, talking to hotels, getting the money situations, donations, a little help from Mooney and George. Without them, it'd never be possible. It's very dreadful, I would say, in the beginning. Very stressful. I'm amazed I don't have gray hairs, but at the end of the day, once we drive back home from where we're at, I most likely have the biggest smile on my face, and it's worth it at the end of the day.
It's about the experience,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And how old are you guys? You guys said you're not even 30. You're doing.
I'm 28.
I'm 26. I turned 27 in 22 days.
Oh, happy early birthday, Isaiah.
Yeah, thank you.
But it's pretty crazy that you guys are doing this, not even 30 years old, while most people, like you say, parents look at you, they probably sometimes think you guys are like some of the wrestlers on the team or something,
You would believe that happens probably once a tournament.
Yeah, like sometimes I go to tournaments like, oh, I'm here with Team A, and they're like, oh, you gotta go way in over there. I'm like, no, I'm here to pay the rest of our entry, like whatever this situation we're here to get. And they like kind of look at me like, all right, I would say we are probably the youngest coaching that, at least not coaches, but the youngest managing coach that like runs their own dual team nationally that we've seen. There's only one younger dude. He's actually one of our good friends. He runs Flicker Boys. He's still 18 in high school, but he also wrestles on the team. He does it all. Brandon Bauer, great friend of ours. So
he makes some great gear too.
Yeah,
his gear is really good. And like Zay said, he's 18, and that boy, he's taught us stuff about being a manager and how to like really like put it out there. So this generation has something to give.
Yeah, that's true. So how did you guys how long have you guys been around the sport of wrestling? Has it been your whole lives, or
us ourselves, or Team Alien?
Yourselves.
I'll let the old man go first.
I started wrestling around like 4 or 5 years old. My dad was the head coach at Warwick Vets for 15, 16 years. I wrestled in Warwick Pow. We were a powerhouse for years. We had a really good group of kids. I wrestled with 2 4-time state champs on my team. And we were very dominant. I got into wrestling because a lot of my friends did it. And then obviously I don't think it was a choice because my dad was a coach. It took me a while to kind of get used to it. Like Zay could probably tell you, when you met me as a kid, I hated wrestling. I did not like it. I used to cry about going to practice. Used to cry about going to a Sunday tournament at Johnston or Parkview Middle School. But all those things ended up paying off. I think I started to really buy into the system around like 6th or 7th grade, and you couldn't get me away from a mat after that. I ended up going to college. I went to West Virginia University, and then after that, I took a whole hiatus. And thanks to this guy sitting next to me, he got me back into coaching, because I didn't. After I had a bunch of really tough losses, not in like a wrestling match, but like I had tough losses in my life, probably around like 22, 20 age. And I also wasn't, I thought I had all the answers like every 20-year-old kid does. And I fell out of wrestling, and I realized that this sport makes me who I am, and it keeps me whole. And I would have never got back into the sport if they didn't call me.
Wow. Good thing that man's here, you know?
For me, I didn't know what wrestling was. Growing up as a kid, I'm from African descent. I am Cape Verde, so all my families are from Cape Verde, majority of them. So I was a big soccer kid growing up, and then until my father passed away when I was 8, I kind of started evolving to other sports, playing football, playing baseball. Never liked basketball, just never liked the sound of the ball hitting the ground. So one day, I finally got into 6th grade. My grandmother, all my grandparents, for some reason, like especially with like Cape Verdeans and the Cape Verdean family, no matter if you're going to your friend's house that's Cape Verdean, their grandparents watch WWE. It's like it's a real ritual. It's kind of funny. Like my grandmother loves John Cena. She calls John Cena her son, and she's never met him. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to beat people up, smash people with chairs and everything. And kind of most how kids start wrestling.
About to say, when I was 4 or 5 years old, that was like the first question I asked. It was like, yo, where are the tables, ladders, and chairs?
Yeah, like, oh, I thought this was WWE. What?
Yeah. And I was a very rough house kid. I grew up in the projects of East Providence. And then when my dad kind of went into Boston area in Pawtucket, so I went to Riverside Middle School in gym class. We like changed or whatever, and all I know is if I can remember right, I got in an altercation with some kid, and I just remember like slamming him, doing something, kind of like being in the. I didn't really get in trouble, like we used to rough houses, but you know, the coach was like Coach Rodrigues, Bobby Rodrigues from Martin. He's one of the greatest middle school coaches in RI. Won so many state titles. Grateful to be a part of him. He's also the club coach in Rhode Island, ATC. He looked at me and said, "Hey, you should do wrestling if you think you're really tough and this, and like you think you're big. Come join wrestling and see how good you are." But and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come smash somebody with a chair over their head. Like cool, let's do it." I was at that time. I was also playing soccer for Riverside. I was 2 out of the 3 6th graders to start varsity and play offense on soccer. So I was still full-time playing soccer. Like, oh, I'm gonna play in the MLS and everything. And I switched schools. I went from Riverside Middle School. I went to Martin Middle School in 1 quarter. It was a lot more easier for my mom to transport me to Martin. It was closer to our projects. It was just more kids from my neighborhood went to Martin Middle School, so it was a little bit more easier for my mom. So after soccer season, I go to Martin, and I just remember seeing a sign saying wrestling practice is November something on a Monday. I was like, oh, I'm gonna tell this dude I'm gonna do it. Like, it was just, I was always raised right before my dad was like passed away, was a man's only as good as his word. So I told the guy I was gonna do wrestling, and I did it. That season, I just remember we went to go wrestle Riverside, and I go in, and he like was shocked, jaw dropped, like, wow, you did it. Like, you tried wrestling.
Let's do it.
I personally sucked. I was terrible. I didn't understand it. Also, I didn't care for it as much until 7th grade. We had a new coach come over. I was first coached by Brian Ferreira, who was a New England champ, state champ. He ended up having kids, having a life going on, so he had to step down. I got lucky enough to get with Bobby Blakely, who's our Rhode Island state champ. He placed in back then, I don't know what the All-American was. I know it's not NHSA American because he's like the class of 2002. So it's some other high school All-American, and he's like the real one to show me what wrestling is outside of the school season. In Rhode Island, we do a lot of like school wrestling. I know like Connecticut, Mass. I don't think they have that.
No,
we have like two tournaments for middle school. Yeah, so like in Rhode Island, there was like a middle school season like for your school.
That's cool.
And the middle school and USA aren't connected, so because of that, it gets really confusing. So like, I know what he's talking about. When I was a kid, I went to a school where he went to a school that had a middle school program. I didn't go to one that had a middle school program. My dad had to get us an independent contract to get us to go to the middle school states. And I always talk about it. I'm like, dude, it's so crazy because they would never do that now. In Warwick, now that Warwick has middle school teams, it's kind of crazy because Gorton was like, he'll tell you, like, we walked in with 6 kids and they were like, who is this?
And they won all 6 matches. We won because we had the forfeit.
Yeah.
Like, we got the forfeit. So once I started wrestling and then the season ended, he was like, oh, do you guys still want to wrestle? He was one of the first people I could say who changed my life. Like I said, I was in the projects. At that time, I was around drug dealers, so much violence. It was just what I was raised around and the circumstances that I had to be around and where I lived. He was the first person to make sure I got home safe from school, like giving me a ride. I remember 7th grade year, my mom could never pick me up from after school activity, so I had to take a late bus. School ended around 2:30. The late bus came at 3:30. So I was only getting an hour of practice the first month of 7th grade. And he was like, oh, I'll bring you home. So stay till 5:30. I was like, okay, cool. He used to bring me home every single day. Like I said, when food stamps ran out, we didn't have food. It was like, life was not easy, especially when I was younger. So he would make sure we had meals. And it was me and my other best friend, Austin, who wrestled also. So he's the first one who like was there for me, especially as a male role
He was the first amazing coach you had.
Yeah. And then after that, it was like simple. It was like, oh, we could go travel and go to this state. We could go to New York. We could go to New Jersey. And not saying I won anything when I left. I still wasn't winning. I was still getting my butt kicked, and I hated traveling with them because it was like them kids aren't even better. But what I loved about it was when I played football, we always lost like in regionals right before we went to Florida. It was like football was like, oh, you're going to Florida. Mm-hmm. I realized in wrestling I didn't need that. That I could just wrestle and we could travel. I was like, oh, cool. Then it was better than staying home in East Providence or in Providence and just doing the same knucklehead things. And my friends were doing this, not doing things they wasn't supposed to and stuff. Mm-hmm. So after that, around 8th grade year, Roderick introduced me to Mariquanchi. And funny is I met my cousin João Vicente, who you should one day get on this. He's the man. Somebody I'm not gonna say too much of his story, but he has it. He's my best friend. If he's the next person I would call my father. He's only a couple years older than me. He's everything that I would need in life. And we're family. We're actually cousins. We're like distant cousins, 8th cousins. We lived like 3-4 blocks away, but family don't talk, whatever the situation, so you don't get to meet everybody. And we met on the wrestling mat. We was like friends for like 6 months, and then our parents met each other, and they're like, "Oh, I know you, you know me," and then we stayed locked in for the rest of our lives.
He's the voice of reason for most of us. Whenever I have an issue, I call João. When I say an issue, I don't mean like an issue with my own personal life. He's usually the first person I call for advice. I know Zay's the same way. He's a, like I said, voice of reason is like his nickname.
So for me, I didn't really have much success in wrestling as what it did for me in my life and what I needed it to do it for. I didn't really look into wrestling to like go win a state title, win all this. Like, yeah, I tried my best. To be honest, I was only a JV state title. I was backup to João my freshman and sophomore year. Then junior and senior year, he went off to college and life kind of came back to not having people going the wrong direction. And wrestling was just my outlet to get away from what I was around 24/7. So I don't have the wrestling story of like success and everything. I have the wrestling that this is what it did for me. It benefited me in this in the long run. It made sure I stay out of trouble. wrestling today, still I look at it is it saved my life. You know, definitely saved my life.
Yeah, dude, I know what you mean, and that's almost like more inspirational than the wrestling success story about the guy who goes out and just wins titles. You know,
Exactly.
because that person, you know, they might not have the heart or the drive or be able to stick to their word like you did. You know, like what the sport does for you is what matters, not what you do with the sport. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
I say all the time that you get what you want out of this sport.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to just be a wrestler, you want to be that wrestler that just wrestles in like the regular season, you can do that and still be a great person. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you don't wrestle year round doesn't mean that you're not like a good person. I say all the time, like, you get whatever you want out of this sport. But if you do this sport, I tip my hat to you for the respect, because this is a grueling and brutal sport. You know, it's not easy.
Yeah. Once I realized what wrestling did for me in a whole, I kind of dropped every sport. Like once I got to high school, and I was taking wrestling full serious, traveling with MQ, doing judo and everything. I hated judo. There's like so many stories. I did more judo kind of than I'd say wrestling, especially once I transferred to Miracquanchi and was full time there. Like great club, great everything they build and everything is amazing. I do wish that they started the wrestling what they're doing now when our era was, but at that time it was different. It was different. I grew up with Mooney, I grew up with Everett Desla, Caitlin. They was all on the world team for judo. Mm-hmm. So that's why everybody was around. That was our focus, and you know, you kind of do what your friends do. They was really focused in judo and everything, so we just decided to do it too. And same thing. Every club that I've been a part of, you know, I financially couldn't pay for tuition or anything to go to. They looked out free and, you know, let me come to travel, whatever, for free. So I'm grateful for all that opportunity, and just, I hated just some funny stories too about judo. They speak Japanese majority of the time. Really? In the tournament. Yeah, all the moves are in Japanese. I had one coach, Mr. Domingo, who knew I didn't know what they were saying in Japanese, that he would say it in English for me. So one time I was I want to say it was Staten Island Cup. I'm fighting in like the yellow division or something. Mm-hmm. And Serge comes over and starts screaming the moves out. I literally look at him and go, I don't know what you're saying. I speak English.
Yeah,
just translate. And Mr. Mick was like, yo, I got it. And Mr. Mick was like, oh, just sprawl, half Nelson. Like, stop yelling out wrestling moves like that. We had our own little language within judo. And that's like the little bit of success I got out of judo. But I think like the friendships, the experience, the cookouts, it was just more funner. Like everything I did that was fun, like wakeboarding. I had friends from like Narragansett and stuff that were more high, in a higher class caliber. I wouldn't say rich, but you know,
well, look at him and I. Like, look at how him and I met. You know, we're from two completely different worlds, and him and I met through wrestling. And honestly, we've always been close, but we got a lot closer from like coaching and whatnot. But when we were kids, like I remember like seeing Zay at wrestling matches and stuff, and like saying hi to him and stuff, and he would do the same. You know, Zay's one of those people that he might have not been in my corner, but he was always in my corner. For both of my state titles, I remember looking over, and Zay was like the first person I saw besides, obviously your coaches and stuff, but he was always front row at the state tournament.
Sorry, someone's letting off fireworks. I have my window.
But yeah, the friends you make from wrestling are just great in general. I've trained in Connecticut most of my life. You know, I trained with KT Kids, John Knapp. So like him and I will run into guys like Wes Johnson and Elliot Antler, who I wrestled with most of my life, and he'll be like, how do you know these people? They're from Connecticut. They're from like a whole different side of New England. I'm like, this is my workout partner, man. Like, me and him went to college together, you know, like.
You know, it's where you were built, you know, kind of where you trained, you know, you got connections.
Yeah, and then even like for me, like with the judo, he'd be like, the Patellos, I wrestled with them in the beginning of my, he's like, oh, you know their dad really well. Like with Tommy, I said, yeah, they used to come to MQ. Like that was what the kids I was wrestling with around. And then like I got friends in Canada, the Nagy family, who like I'm great still friends with in a relationship. So it's kind of funny that like we're probably 25 minutes away from each other, but we come from two opposite lifestyles. Like, George lives in a house. He grew up in a house. I grew up in project apartments, and when we became friends and just, I forgot how it went. I just know one day I seen him on Snapchat, like, post a video. I knew he was at college, and then one day I seen him post a snap of him, like, driving down I-95. Like, back then you put your music, driving, like, especially when your kids, like, to, like, look cool. And I just remember, like, yeah, and I was like, oh, yeah, running? He was like, yeah, I'm done with school and everything. I'm like, oh, come to wrestling practice at that time I was coaching at ATC. I had my own little club going on called Raw Wrestling, stands for Real Athletes Wrestle. And he was like, all right, cool, I'll come over. And he walks in the building and he's like 210 pounds.
Fat.
Like, chin touching his shoulders. And I'm like, holy Christ, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And
he ate you, man.
His father, I think George Schmieder, who always, it was like it's a crazy bond to say, like, the East Providence, Warwick Vets, even like the Cranston West kids at that time, because that's where Mooney went to. When we, like, all went to one tournament, we was together. Like, even though we all had our own little clubs and everything, I think this is a little different from the generations now. Like, even though, like, he went to KT kids, I was technically an ATC kid, but trained out of MQ. And then you got the MQ kids. We were all involved together. Like, his best friend, Nate Calici, is an MQ race kid, too, which is also my best friend. So we always had, like, mutual best friends and everything. And all the times we always, like, stuck together. Different. So once, like, I see him, I'm like, oh. He's like, yo, I haven't wrestled in about, like, a year and a half. I gained all this weight. And then it was literally, like, one day. Like, he came to one practice. I, like, let him show some stuff. He came back the next Thursday. And then he, like, I just remember turning around and go, so what's the catch here? Like, what are you doing? And, like, are you the only one here? And at that time I still, like, had, like, Eric Desolate, Juwan used to come by. And I was like, to be honest, it's really just me running the show here. There's no catch. I just coach just because, I just came home. So I was like, this is what's keeping me out of trouble right now. This, go back to being a little kid. I was 24 at the time. I want to say 24, 23. I was like, yo, this is what's keeping me out of trouble, not doing things I shouldn't be doing. So I just, I'm putting my full investment in this. And he was like, oh, okay. He was like, you mind if I come and coach? Like, I was like, of course, George. Like, he has a different style of coaching than I do and a different perspective. Like, he was a big freestyle guy, where, like, I'm mainly, like, folk style and judo. So I was like, yeah, and literally the next day George was at practice. The next day George was at practice. Now he's calling me before practice, talking about what we should go over. And now he's calling me before and after practice. It was like day after day, he literally fell back in sport till right when COVID came, we ended up living.
Yeah, I was about to say, we started living with each other right when COVID hit, and then it was overdrive. We were trying to think of any idea possible to get something off the ground. And his nephew started wrestling, and then my niece and nephew started wrestling. So we got back into the youth group a little bit. And then, we were just talking about it. We were driving back from a youth wrestling tournament, and literally I go, Zay, you know what kids like? And he's like, what? Like aliens. And, like, he sat on his phone for like 20 minutes and goes, George, we're gonna do this. There's enough here. We can do this. And it kind of took off from there. It's kind of crazy, but the support we've gotten from kind of like anyone that's kind of always been, like, Mooney hopped on, you know what I'm saying? Like, we try to get more and more people on this because this is it's a family, man. We really, we say it all the time. If you're part of this team, man, you're a family. Like, we're a huge family. We do everything together, especially when we're out there. And we just want kids to kind of join, that get that bond that him and I have. Like, you don't have to be from the same state. You don't got to be from the same area. You don't even got to like each other, really. Like, I say all the time, the people I wrestled back in high school, like, kids that I would be like kids that I was competing and grinding against, I see them now, and I'm so grateful because those are the people that kind of shaped who I am today, And I know he says the same thing because we talk about it constantly, And a lot of our kids who we coach, they're great kids, and we're just trying to correct because him and I both have a story to tell, as you can tell. I mean, we've been here for now 30 minutes.
Just talking.
Not
let him ask any questions.
Yeah, but we're gonna let you go now.
Well, basically, now what I'm wondering is, so Team Alien was born from just driving down the highway and being like, "Yo, kids like aliens. We could
So
do something
what
here."
originally happened is
We were trying to come up with a name for a travel team,
Yeah.
and Zay already had gone through the steps. With the Team Rhode Island, he wanted to start Team Rhode Island.
So originally, So what originally happened is we started when we first started our club. I had my nephew at first, and then he did not like wrestling. Like, well, he was like, "No, I'm not doing this." We had 5 kids. I'll never forget their names till this day. Jaylinda, my first girl, Jaden and Aiden, these twins, and then Amani and Lloydson. 5 kids who fell in love with us wrestling, and this is like something that is even crazier is that they wrestled for one year. In them 3 months, they went everywhere. They was dedicated to the sport of wrestling, and they all placed at states. 2 were in the finals, 1 won it, and the other 3 placed at, I can't really remember, like 3rd or 4th, like pretty high. And like that's what established like, oh, what we're doing with these. It was in like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades.
There was questions. We didn't know what we were doing was right. We're new.
We're just trying,
Yeah.
and we got a lot of success with them. COVID hit, and I'm not mad at them. I actually love what they're doing now. Jalen ended up moving to North Carolina right after COVID. Lloydson and his brother Amani now play football in Pawtucket, and the Jaden Aiden are one of the best athletes I have ever seen growing up as a kid to now that they play for NFLnetwork.com flag football.
Really?
Yeah.
You know Snakes in the Grass?
Yeah.
The game that you play like at the end of practice, Snakes in the Grass. We couldn't let them get the ball because no one could tackle them.
So they made their own version of Snakes in the Grass. It was called Snakes in the Field. And it was one kid with a football and everybody snakes and you have to tackle him. And at one point, but everybody stopped, you start on your knees and everything. We could not tackle them. Like they was like really good. Like on the whole mat. We were like, holy snap.
Like we gotta make this fair for the other kids.
And I'll definitely say them 5 kids, even though they gave it the hardest 3 or 4 months they could have given. And just now they're full-time football players. Nothing wrong with it. We actually still go to their games every year. We go to 2 or 3 of their games to watch them play. We support them. We get invited to their birthday parties. Them 5 kids will always have a place in my heart. Them 5 kids changed my life forever. I love them like they're my own kids. Like they're just the sweetest group of kids. It sucks that they didn't keep on wrestling, but them 5 kids meant everything to me at that time in 2019, 2020.
So then after that, they tried to get together. So we tried to go back because I was more in the high school. He was more in the youth thing.
So we started traveling. My nephew finally got back into wrestling. And we started going to Virginia Beach. We went to Virginia Beach duels because they was too young to go in the individuals.
We went with Revival.
So yeah, we went with Revival, Scott Sampson, and Mooney was reffing at that time. So we're there, and Mooney's like, "Yo, see that team Kong? See that team Shut? That's not a club. They just bring a bunch of kids to the best, and put them on one team to compete against the next level." That same year, we seen Tyler Knox there. We seen Jacob George. And that year prior, they both placed like top 3 in the nation NHSAA, but wasn't ranked. They go to NHSAA duels, go like 7-1. I think Knox goes undefeated, Joyce goes 7-1, and they leave ranked. So like, yo, duels is what gets you ranked. You need to do duels to get ranked.
You gotta be with the top. You gotta be with the top dogs. Yeah,
So,
you can't be going to just any duel. Like you can't be going to any duel tournament. You gotta go to the place where you see the Bo Bassett's, the Tyler Knoxes. You gotta go to those places because if you ain't going to those places, that's what Flow and Track and all these other companies that, like we say all the time, that they take that into consideration. That's like the first thing they look at. They say, oh, this guy, he placed at New England's, oh, but he went 3-3 at NHCA duels. It's like, oh, then maybe New England isn't on the rise yet. Maybe, because we're all for New England and we're all for trying to get this section better. The thing is that it's hard to push off-season wrestling to these kids.
Yeah. So from right after that, we go to it was season starts, and I just remember I want to say it's at the Cumberland tournament, and something hit me like, yo, let's put a team Rhode Island in and go to like all the Rhode Island state champs go to NHSA duels. Because at that time we had Peyton Ellis, we had the Gabe, Joyce. It was a lot of good, like Spencer Fine, everybody. And at that time, I didn't realize how many people were at clubs and like they go with their clubs and stuff at the time. And at the time, nobody from Rhode Island was going to NHSA duels besides Joyce. Like, I don't remember really like Doughboy always went, Smitty's went, Metro might have went just that year, that same exact year that we went. But we didn't really see them. Like, we didn't hear about them and stuff. So we're like, yo, let's do a team Rhode Island, we'll get everybody on board. And I just remember like, yo, I'm going to donate the entry fee. So no kid has to pay. You know, just, if you win the States, you go for free. Use the Fargo singlets, whatever. I go to the coach and I'm like, yo, let's do a team Rhode Island. I'll pay for it, entry fee. And it went to be like, oh, no kids are going to do it. Nobody wants to do it. Too much traveling. It was excuse after excuse to not do it. And then the final answer that I got from them, this is all in one day, was, how about you just do it yourself? And I was like, okay. And turned around and was like, yo, we're going to do this thing. And at first it was called Rhode Island Aliens. Some parent, one of our good friends, was like, yo, you know, if you do it right, because he was kind of on the dual son. It was actually David Perez's father. He kind of did the dual thing on his own with the middle school, like going to different dual wrestling for prestige and stuff in the middle school. He's like, yo, you can make a business or whatever and take more better kids and like, you know, be bigger than Rhode Island and New England. So I was like, okay, cool, let's do that. We'll run with that idea. And even before I came in, we was at a war zone event, like George was saying, and we're driving. I kind of like said it, but nobody was like really full blown with it. And I was like, oh, we're probably not gonna do it. It was like February, right before States, and George just looks at me and goes, you know what kids like? Aliens. And I was in my head like, I don't like aliens. I was like, when I was a kid, I hated aliens. Like, whatever, George. Like,
I don't know what you mean. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
Like I hated Star Wars. Like, I'm like, nah, I can't do that.
Me too.
I was like,
I don't know if I can trust either.
See, like, so, yeah, I was like, yo, I don't like aliens, so. And I just remember going on Google, like looking at them.
He typed in alien wrestling, and there was so many like logos, and
he actually had. This is the logo I first found, and it's the alien astronaut arm wrestling. Once I found that, I said, yeah, we're calling it aliens, and ran with the show.
And believe it or not, we had this idea. Like, this idea wasn't ours. My dad started the Team Rhode Island thing back. What would you say? Was that 2011, 12?
Yeah.
2012, my dad started, he made like the first Team Rhode Island team. And Joao was on it, Jonah Arulio, Nate Calici, John Altieri, Ebert Jarrell, Steve Jarrell. There was a lot of good kids. Max O'Connell. Nick O'Connell was the assistant coach. It was a bomb squad. Really good team. And they went up to Wadsworth, which is the old New England Gold for all the old heads out there. Wadsworth was a big club. It was a beautiful place. Coach Carmine, who we love, he ran the event. It used to be called the New England Club Duels. And I'll never forget it because my dad said, we're going to do real well here today. You know, we might not have the crazy team. And ever since then, it kind of put into my head, I was like, yo, if we could get all 13 Rhode Island state champs on a team, we could do something special. Because I think that we're good. We're gritty. Like, listen, I've been to other states. I went to 2 different states to wrestle in college. And I went to the Iowa State tournament, and people hype that up like crazy. Like, Iowa State tournament's the best. I told someone the other day, round 64 to the quarters, it looks like RI states. Like, let's not get like.
Not that. It's not crazy.
We have the potential to do something special, but the problem is Rhode Island and a lot of New England is a lot of politics. So we had to learn how to like kind of bob and weave into these things because we went with a bunch of 2s and 3s the first year.
Yeah.
And we did great.
Our first year. So once we go, it was kind of like, boom, now this club's going to NHSA, this club. And it's like, nobody was in Rhode Island going to NHSA duels until we said it. Like, we was the first one. Now it's like, oh, no, you're not getting our kid no more because we're going to go NHSA duels. And it was like, people were going to go, then they wasn't going to go, and it was like playing field. So we said, all right, we're not going to wait on that one of the states. We had one state champ, Amano Tavares, a bunch of Nick Torres, and everybody else was 2s, 3s, and 4s. And we're like, you know what? We ended up bringing 2 high school teams because we even had certain kids who were close to us because at that time I was at Hope. He was at East Providence. Now he's at Central. And we was like, yo, it's not fair to nobody in our school. Let's send 2 teams, a B team, whatever. And we brought we had 2 buses out, so it was 2 in each car. We brought
close to 30 kids.
28 kids about to NHSA duels. We raised about $5,000 to $6,000.
And this is during COVID. This is where we can't like panhandle in front of a stop and shop.
This is like right after
like
COVID.
We went hard on this stuff.
Yeah.
We raised like $5,000 to $6,000. This is literally last year because we're only about we're like 16 months in right now, right? Of Team Alien, and we raised all this money to send most of them. I want to say about 21 were from Providence, from between Hope,
Central, Mount Pleasant,
Cranston East. There was only a few like North Providence. We had the East Providence. There's only about like 3 or 4 kids on that team that was from like Warwick, Lincoln, like the little upper cities and stuff like that. And that team shocked the world. Like, you know, we went there and we went 6-2, lost to Tryon Black, who made it around 16, and then we had to wrestle
Kong right after.
No, it wasn't Kong. It was Shut. Shut. They won the tournament. They won the tournament, and just how different we was once we wrestled them. Like, we told them, like, oh, we're just, like, a team. They're like, yo, you guys been naming, like, ringing bells out here, like, beating people that you shouldn't be.
We were the only team that had a spinning chain and a sledgehammer. So we were intimidating everywhere we went.
This Garrett with the drip, like, kids on Shut was like, yo, Shut don't go to the tournament. Invite us. Like, here's my Instagram. That's how I met, like, Brandon Bauer, how I met David McCallan, Jordan Chapman, who's wrestled plenty of times for us now. That a lot of kids see him. Just a bunch of kids on show was like, yo, we want to wrestle for you guys now. And it was like, we're not good. Like, you know, we ended up getting blanked by them, but that's how I met with Coach Gerard Garnett, who was coaching Shut at that time. And it was like, yo, you guys brought a bunch of nobodies. We was unseeded to making it to the top 50 in the nation that year, losing in the pigtail. It's like we took a true Rhode Island team to NHSCA. It was like all Rhode Island kids. We had 1 New York State place. They took 6, Junior Reynolds from Niagara Falls. And out of all New England teams, I want to say it was the only 2 teams to make it into Monday were Smitty's and Doughboys, and then us and Metro both tied not tied, but we both lost in the pigtail. So coming out of our first tournament, it was like, wow, like we know what we're doing, putting a good group together. And after that, we just expected everybody else kind of to follow along and everything. Didn't plan out that well, you know, not just like itself as Rhode Island, but, you know, we wanted to go to more tournaments. Let's keep on going throughout the year, not just make it NHSCAs. And we put a lot of effort in that first year. Like, grateful. We're both grateful enough because I know he's not here right now, but if it wasn't for Mooney, I don't think Team Alien would have lasted so much. He was like our biggest guy getting donations, putting his own money up at any time. And he was like our safety bank. Like, there was times like something happened and we needed an extra 300-400, like, you know, kids mess up the hotel room, whatever the situation would be, and like, boom, Mooney got it cleared. He's handling it. He was like truthfully the more mature one out of us too, just more established and got to it. And like that's why you kind of
he's well respected everywhere too.
And like knows all the refs and everything too. So it's just like
the ref, right?
Yeah, he was. We used to ref at NHSA duels, and he gave it up to coach with Team Allen with us.
So what was the last tournament he refed? Was it New England's?
Yeah, so
he still refs in season.
In season,
okay,
he refs.
In season.
But during the house, he does like the NHSCAs, and he gave that up for Team Allen to fully coach. And like I said, like once Mooney was on board with us, and he ended up even living downstairs. I got him. He was like at like 222. Now he's at like 195. So like just us like getting back into wrestling. Like now he has his own club called Moon Squad, Just, he's in better health and shape that he was in. I was like at 130 pounds. Now I'm like 160. George was at, I don't want to say 250, but he's gonna say 210. And now he's at like 175. So like, just us being coaching, being involved with us saved our lives health wise too. And finished off is like Mooney was like the golden to the charm. Like he was the icing on the cake. Like we just made it happen. And every kid now, it's like kind of funny. All the kids gave us nicknames. Like they call Mooney the hero. Like, and then they call me the voice because I'm always like I'm the face of like Team Alien, quote unquote. I'm always talking.
Yeah.
The guy that has to argue with somebody, like that's me. I'm the voice. I'm the one on Facebook doing all the extra stuff. So they call me the voice, and then George got the professor because he's like my dog's barking. And then he's the professor. So James, can you get my phone too? So they call him the professor because he's like a wrestling nerd and knows everything about wrestling. So yeah, that's pretty much like
you get those three together, one hell of a party.
So we kept on going tournaments, and just some kids were invested, some kids wasn't, and that first year we put a lot of our own money into the wrestling. Like I want to say, within travel, we out of us three spent about like 20 grand in wrestling, just using our own money. Another like 15 or 10,000 came from donations. Like there's just certain kids who can't pay their way towards it. And it's like we don't want to leave no kid left out. Like me and Mooney, we're grateful that we was part of MQ when we was on the scholarship program, where we never paid for anything. We didn't have, our parents couldn't pay for it, so we got to travel work. So we just made sure that the kids that were fully invested in wrestling, the kids that commit 100% to their club, to wherever, that they get the same opportunity. So we was taking 3 or 4 kids to tournaments, even like Isael, Mano, and Edmund were like the main 3. I was taking them to go wrestle with Team Shut, to wrestle with GT Squad, Flicker Boys. We was going every weekend to this tournament, to that tournament. Not even like with Team Alien. Like Team Alien grew to be more than just ourselves. Like it's not just about Team Alien winning, it's about getting these kids to succeed.
So, what is it that you guys look for in a kid that wants to come compete with you guys?
We take anybody and everybody.
We do take everyone, but I will say this, that we both had Coach Galligan in our lives. Coach Galligan was my youth coach at Warwick Powell. He's the head coach at East Providence High School. Galligan really, really stresses grit and balls. Like that was steel heart, steel balls. And basically, I don't care if you're we took a kid from Central who I coach now. He had a tough state tournament his freshman year, and he went out there, and like we say it all the time, like if you're in a match and you just the ability to just stay in a match and just be like, yo, I don't want to lose. That's what I want. I don't want to see you give up. If you give up, man, this isn't. Maybe it's time to go play basketball. Like you gotta give it. We talk about it all the time. The reason why we go to these things is because you make mistakes in the off season. That's the time to go for a lap drop with 15 seconds left, and try something. It's the time. There's nothing on the line, When we get to the States, that's when you need to put it all together. New England's, that's why you got to put it all together. That's when all that hard work kind of translates. We just try to teach that to the kids for the most part, but he's right. We'll take any kid no matter what. You'll get an earful from me if you're not trying to go out there and win.
I hear you gotta show your heart, like you fight to the last whistle.
With me, really, it's just like kids that want to wrestle. Like I don't care if you play other sports or whatever. Like cool, that's you. It's like the kids who are fully dedicated to wrestling. Try to put them on that first team. The second team's kind of like just there's kids that are not that good or just want to wrestle. I want kids who love wrestling. Like let's go out there, have fun, make memories. Kids that behave, that's one.
I'm about to say, behave and respect is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Just because look at like even we live in these things. Like we literally wear Team Alien all the time because it's free promotion. You know what I'm saying? When I worked whenever you work for a company, they make you wear the shirt because it's free promotion. So, we try to promote as much as we can. But if we have a kid acting up in these things, that doesn't look good on us and it doesn't look good on the team. So we try to make sure character's always first.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. But, so, let me hear some stories where you guys acted out of character. Let me hear some wild team aliens.
Like us as kids or like the kids now?
Nah. Just like some crazy stories you had with the team from when you guys were at an event or something. Just like.
So we got a lot of them.
So first one, that's like still kind of big and it's kind of hilarious. So we go to Columbus Day duels and we get on the bus. This is like kind of crazy to say on video, but we get a hotel with like 3 other parents and we're like chilling. Like we're like, all right, we went to the store. I think we got some beers and we're chilling in the bed. And we like look over and there was bed bugs.
Ooh.
We instantly go to the manager. We pull all the kids out the room. And grateful, like I said, this is where Mooney comes. Like Mooney's great for 100 and more, I think, but like. This is where he comes in, like, all right, I'm going to be the big boss. We get a new hotel room that instantly, and, like, that hotel didn't want to charge, like give us our money back for, like, that day. Like, we had to call corporate, and, like, we wasn't going to get it that same night. It was a 3-night stay, and literally turn around and go swipe his card and buy a whole nother hotel and, like, thing. And, like, it was crazy because by the time we noticed it was, like, 12 o'clock. Lucky it was only in our room. It was only in the coach's room somehow.
Kind of sabotage. Right?
So, like, we take all the kids. The kids did not fall asleep. Or, like, we didn't check into that next hotel
until, like, 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah, 2 or 3 a.m. And, like, it was,
like, now, mind you, this is Mooney. Like, this is me, like, reiterating on what he said about Mooney. Mooney probably paid for a full night stay in 3 rooms for 2 hours. Yeah. Like 2 hours. So
we still got charged that night. At 2:30, we got charged that night. Even it was like late. Like we're not using. And he had like no issues. So it was like, yo, if we don't do this, like teammates gonna like we can't be like stuff like this happen and allow it to happen. Like I said, like and he's right. So we just went and we like that was like the number. Like we checked it and we had to be back up at 7 o'clock in the morning because we drove like an hour even farther away from the hotel. From the event, so we had to wake up again at like 6:30 morning to go wrestle in the morning at Columbus Day.
And they wrestled really well for kids that only got 3 hours of sleep.
Wrestled well. Like John Morano did a essay that night because he was just at NMH. Goes back and actually beats Anthony Aveski, who's ranked like top 10 in the nation. But the ref did a bullshit call, and he loses by 1. The kid Anthony even goes up to John, like, in the middle of the match. The kid Anthony didn't even want his hand raised. And it was like, nah, he won that. I don't care what this, like, you won that. Like, so that group team was like, wow, like, that's my craziest, like, yo, stuff happens.
I got one better.
He thinks it's better.
No, it's way better. All right. So, this is Zay and George 101. We go to Hammer Shack duels, right? The first year ever. And Zach Briston's like, we're cool with Zach Briston. We get in and we're like, okay. Zay's like, George, please take the ride with me 3 hours to MMH. I gotta pick up 3 kids. I said, yeah, no problem, man. We went and picked up these 3 kids. This is like 3 or 4 hours away from Hammer Shack duels. We come back to Hammer Shack duels. Oh my God, I don't even know how to explain this. This duel meets hot. It's these kids are we're
winning a lot, but
they're chippy. Every kid's chippy. And we got kids kind of running their mouths. We're trying to keep control. Heavyweight match happens. We have this heavyweight from MH. He's such a great kid. He's really such a standout kid. This is my first interaction with this guy.
He's going to Harvard.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So him and this kid, they're from New York. They have murder beef, and we didn't know about it. They have like murder beef. Like if they see each other outside the mat, they fight. So them two they're wrestling. Like I said, it's getting chippy. The other kid decides, I'm done wrestling. And he 2-pieces our heavyweight, just straight boom, 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 in the middle of a match. Dude, we didn't know that this kid's dad was there.
Like, we went and picked him up in NMH. We drove 3 hours to pick him up at NMH.
This kid's dad came down to the mat and punched the kid in the face. Like, we can't make this up.
The
and
dad
so we're sitting
did?
there like, oh my God, we're dead.
We didn't even know who this is where I said like why we have kids who are characters. Like none of our kids came on the mat. And I'm not taking nothing away from that kid's dad. Like they're still a great family. I have a lot of respect for them. But our kid who got punched, like walked off the mat clapping and like flexes like, I ate that. And just all you hear, whoo, and the kid, he turns around like, Dad, what are you doing?
Yeah. And it was crazy.
And his dad like went there to surprise him. Like his dad walks in, I guess was like he was about to wrestle. His dad didn't tell him. It was like a surprise because he just went to NMH. He just first year at prep school. So it was like
we're sitting with the cops with Zach Britson, and this is the best part about the story. The cop looks at us and goes, "Yeah, I can't do anything. Everybody's 18." Okay, and then of course we're that one team that, like, I'm not trying to like sound like that, but we're that one team that has every single African American and Spanish kid on our team. I think the only white kid was that heavyweight, right? So this is hilarious because now we're just like, we had people busting our chops being like, oh, of course Team Alien's the team that has parents punching kids in the face, and we're like, of course, that's us.
Yeah, all that starts up.
Like rest of the dude, like Zach Britson, he runs a great tournament. He handled the situation the best way he could have. I'm not taking like Zach's the man. What he has building and going on, all total respect for him and everything. He handled the situation like a director of a tournament's supposed to, and like that's why I think he still has so much success of how the tournament still ran. It was just like funny, like especially because after he had individuals, like sometimes coaches get into it, and it was like every time we got into it with a coach or something, like about a bad call, it was like, well, you guys got the kid that punches people in the guy that
parent,
that punches. And it was like we don't even know the parent, we barely know the kid,
I've been wrestling since I was 4. I've never seen anything like it. That's like the stuff you see on the news, like all the
literally stuff you see on Twitter, That's insane.
Yeah, so besides that was actually a crazy story, and then we had to drive back 3 hours to go drop the kid off. So
probably quiet car rider.
Yeah, to drive there was like 2.5 really. So then the 2.5 hour back. I didn't even know the team was sitting at the hotel with a birthday cake with me because my birthday was the weekend before to sing me happy birthday. And like that's another thing. Like there's certain kids that are invested in Team Alien. They only want to wrestle with Team Alien. And like parents that trust us and believe us that one of the kids' mom, she came. It was actually Kobe Vital. His mom drove up to New Hampshire with the birthday cake, and it had me and his birthday was that day of the duel with me and his name on it. And like people don't like she didn't know this. I've never had a birthday cake before that until I was like. I think it was like 11 or 12. So like almost 10 years, it was like, damn.
It hit him hard.
I was like, people care. Like, damn, they got me birth. Like simple little things like that. Like that's why Team Alien to us, it's more than just wrestling. It's the bond, the friendships that we grew within each other.
So I guess my last real question I have, because you guys honestly touched on everything before, is just what's your guys' proudest moment coaching?
Oh, I got one.
If you don't get if it's hard to think of one, then give me a couple.
I think the proudest moment is seeing the kids' success that invested themselves into Team Alien when the season came through. Like first example, Aziz Mian from Central goes 0-2 at the state tournament the year before Team Alien. Goes to every duel, even wanted privates from us individually. Comes into the next year taking third.
And qualifying
for New England. It's like out of nowhere. Next for me is like the same thing. Like Isaiah Perez going 0-2 in New England to going to NHAC duels, going 7-1, beating what was the team that White Buffalo or Blue Buffalo, something Buffalo Valley team beating him, having a good match with the Shutt kid, wrestling at Summer Nationals, beating a Fargo All-American. Just from that, it went to getting invited by Team Shutt to go wrestle on them dudes and getting invited to like GT Squad, getting invited to Elite 8, and like even just Elite 8 is like kids that invested in. Like Isael had a 3-day notice. Like he's another kid you probably want to get his own story and anything, but just this one time
definitely
had a 3-day notice. Lost 16 pounds for Elite 8, and then Mooney. Isael was like he's from Providence. He's a single family home. Not well. Mooney paid for the whole trip for us to go out there to Elite 8. And at that end of the day, when we left Elite 8, Team Alien got the invite to go for a freestyle. So
yeah, it's pretty insane that I got that.
Yeah, like even next who wrestled a few duels with us was like Peter Reek and coming out as an underdog. Great kid to watch wrestle. He's a stud. Goes and wins New England.
But for the most part, like when I started coaching, I was 19 years old. I took over the Warwick Vets program because my head coach as a senior, he ended up having to step down for some personal reasons. But so me and Anthony Myers took over the Vets program. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was terrible. I was a very bad coach. I was hard on kids. And I wanted to compete. I didn't want to coach. I wanted to compete. And you could talk to my four first kids. They'll probably tell you, like, I don't think George will ever get back into it because of how I was hard on. One of them was like a teammate of mine. You know, when you come back and you have a teammate and it's really confusing. We had a lot of turmoil with some of these kids. They ended up going to Pilgrim after Vet shut down and stuff like that. I talk to some of these kids now because they're men and adults, and some of them coach still. And to hear them say, like, George, I can't believe that you're coaching in the inner city and how well you do with some of these kids. That's the thing that kind of keeps me going, because at the end of the day, I haven't had a state champ yet. And that's my first. I take baby steps on some of my goals. My first goal is going to be a state champ. I've had a finalist, but I really, really want a state champ, and that's just my first goal. Then we'll get to New England champ, then national champ. Like, we'll get there. But once I get, even then, I think that my biggest accomplishment is just Team Alien and just getting back into this, because, I don't think I would even be in the sport if they didn't call me that day,
I hear it, man. And it's awesome that wrestling just brings people together like that.
Like, as much as, I would say, too, as much as Team Alien saved us, I think it also saved some of the kids, especially the Providence kids that's competing. Within Providence itself, I think they had, 4 or 5 stabbings in the school itself.
The principal got stabbed this year at my school.
Yeah. So, just that situation, them kids not getting into trouble, well, I feel too, you could practice forever. Cool, you want to go practice anything and stay on trouble? Cool. But one day you're going to be like, oh, I can miss practice. I don't got to compete for nothing. We always give them option, this tournament's next, and now you can compete for, practice for this and have a momentum to go to that practice. We don't care, what club you go to. We had kids wrestle from Doughboy. We had kids from Metro. Smitty's always is giving us kids great to work with.
Mayo.
We had a few kids from Mayo. KT kids,
New England Gold.
New England Gold is firsthand our one to go to club. Carmine's the greatest coach ever. If you could get him on the Zoom, I'm telling you, I can give you some advice who to get, because Carmine is. You gotta talk about Carmine.
Just send me some numbers,
Yeah. OTC in Connecticut, and then we have a big club in Virginia, Legacy.
Also Iron Faith too. Eben and Steve do, if they're not going as a team, they hit us up right away, hey, we have these kids, can you please help us out? So we at first, like I said, we had to learn how to deal with kind of politics and stuff like that. But because we kind of made it clear from the rip, we're not a club, we're a travel team. We don't want to take your kids. That's not what we're about. We're about bringing your kids to the best. Listen, if your kid had if you were a club coach, right, and your kid had the opportunity to go wrestle at Elite 8 with us, this is my opinion, but if you said no and I asked you, you're kind of you're hurting the kid.
Yeah.
You're not proving anything.
I feel like a coach should be willing to send their kids with you guys to anything that they're not going to, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. That's that was our big thing even when we started it, because we didn't want to step on nobody's toes. We know how people are.
We want to come together and make a New England team go. I truly think if all the ones in New England go to NHSAA duels, they're making top 5 easily.
Yeah.
It's just certain clubs use it for promotions, and they said it to us oh, well, we can't give you our best kid because we use that as promotion to our club. So I think once everybody learns how to put their pride to the side and like we don't even care if we're the coach thing. Like we have coaches that come to like coach their kid. Like Iron Faith, Steve Jarrell was coaching MQ at that time when they went to NXA, and we was wrestling at this time. He comes over and he's like, "Oh, can I coach my kids?" We're like, "Yeah." So his 3 kids that were on our lineup, he coached. Like we don't need to stand in the corner. Like
that's your kid, man.
It's not even for us. It's for the kids. Like we want to put the best team together. So kids like Isael, Cam Davis, we have, I can't even think you name everybody. Those are just kids I just see on a daily basis, notice, like just personal reasons and everything. That they get the best opportunity to wrestle the best kids. Because they're on like not a good team, they're not going to see the good competition later down in the tournament. So,
and they got goals. You know, I know we're talking about 2 kids. I know that I don't like to single anyone out, but Cam Davis, for example, and Isael, they have goals. You know, they want to be New England champs. I know he's biting at the bit. That man's ready to compete, you know? Same thing with Cam.
Wants it.
So,
you know.
I'm not going to say much because they're going to be watching this video and they're going to be like, "Oh, coach, you really care."
That's why I don't single anyone out. I know you've had an interview with Cam, and he is a legend in his own mind.
Yeah.
And it's just not him. You got the Ivan Mazaregos, Aziz, the Kobe Vitals, even like the little kids coming up. Robert Dugamala. Like I'm telling everybody now,
Demon.
Watch when he comes. He's gonna be. I don't want to say too much because he's gonna really notice, and he's not no underdog. He is the dog. Like that kid is gonna, and he's our first youth kid. Like kid that like was like middle school. Like we didn't have a middle school like teams going tournament, and we was putting them onto middle school teams to wrestle at our duels. Like he would travel with us. We didn't have a middle school team. Well, I'll get you on a middle school team. And that kid, I watched him. He was out that group of 5 I was saying in the beginning. He was wrestling against them all the time, and he was not good at all. And the change I watched him go, like he even sometimes does privates with me here and there. He goes to all different clubs. I talked to his dad on a bit. Like, me and his dad are best friends. His dad's actually our Team Aliens accountant now. And he's the one that made us a non-profit to help these inner city kids. And even, like, people who have, like, I guess money, you would say, they pay, when they have to pay for their kids' entry fee, like, they put it under that to, you know, do what they need to do. And it's also, like, we charge, people like, oh, yeah, how is it free for this kid but not for us? It's like, there's not really free for who or not. We just kind of, the kid, if you speak up to us like, yo, I can't pay for this tournament, I want to go, we'll make it happen for you.
We'll try to help.
We'll call, and there's like, we put a price on it because this kid who's out of New England and everything that will pay, and they pay like an extra $1, like whatever, they pay extra X, Y, Z for this kid to go, you know? Like, they don't know it, but it is what it is. I charge a little bit more than what I needed to, but to make sure kids like Isao, Cam, Aziz, Ivan all get a cheaper discount or can go for free if they need to.
If we give everybody the same rate, for example, like during NFCAs, we give everybody the same rate no matter what. Kids like Cam and Isael, they're doing landscaping. They're helping out. They're cleaning my house. They're cleaning Zay's house. They're doing whatever they can to earn an extra.
I saw you guys post the Rent a Wrestler thing back.
Yeah. Rent a Wrestler that's once again.
That's Mooney.
That's Mooney.
Yeah. Like that's where Mooney comes in. Like does it? He had a lot of like into that. Like the donation, everything. That's like Mooney, all the way.
He's got a lot of Rick alumni that donate a lot too. Like we can't say enough nice things about Mooney. And you know what? Usually when someone's not here, we like to talk some junk, but Mooney's the man.
Yeah. Even though he stresses me out, like me and Mooney are like, we are brothers. We grew up at MQ together. He stresses me out sometimes, but like, Team Alien wouldn't be what it is now if it wasn't for Mooney. Like he always like thanks me like, yo, thank you for getting me back into coaching, like lighting the fire under my butt and everything. Like, you put the flame under Team Aliens, but like without Mooney, there's not much. It's sad that he couldn't make it today. He had work in like private situations, but it was a group effort. And as much as it was us coaches putting an effort, it's the kids that fully invested in Team Alien. Not even the New England kids, like Jordan Chapman, the Van Hovens, Declan Barr from PA, their like family is fully invested into Team Alien. Also, like they do wrestle for certain other teams and they have their own clubs. But like,
what's Ferrari's nephew's name?
Oh, Chris Fretwell from
Chris Fretwell. Like those kids are the kids that put Team Alien. Like even like obviously we got the New England kids. I don't want to take anything away from them, but those are the kids that like when all right, ready? Like we all know how Instagram works. You know, when we posted a picture with Ferrari coaching with us, I know for a fact that a lot of kids hit us up with like, oh, you guys got, you know, the little Ferrari coaching with you. Like, oh, can we come to the next event?
I was like, what the? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like
that's Mooney. Mooney's cool with those people. Like he just has, he's plugged in.
And then even like I said, like what we do when we go out as connections is crazy. Like the Bassett family, like they always sending me invites to camps. Like, yo, I know you take inner city kids, we'll give you half off, whatever situation. We spread it out and tell people like, yo, you want to go? Here it is. Just tell me what team you're on to cut the discount in half. There's a lot of kids that do go. Brandon Bauer of Flicker Boys, he's just coming to Little Rock, Arkansas. Full, if I'm going to say when I post something to like, yo, we need help fundraising, it's like 3 minutes later, oh, you got a Venmo from Brandon Bauer, $300. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and then like the next minute says dad, Keith Bauer. Like, hands doing shit. Like, those people is like what makes us like, damn, what we're doing is great for them. And then the kids is like where they behave and everything. Like, they mean more to us than what they think Team Alien means to them. Like, really grateful for them. They've saved our lives so many ways I can't even explain. Like, I personally say, like, when I first started wrestling, I had 9 friends die from gun violence, literally overdose, and like that's when he started first coming to me. He used to like, yo, wake up, like 2 o'clock in the morning, like, yo, you good? You're like crying, whatever. I'm like, yo, this person just died. He's like, we just seen him 3 days ago. I said, bro, it's serious. Like, that life is like not in, and like that's why I got out. But it's like it shows like if there was no wrestling for me, I probably wouldn't be here. Like 9 friends dying within a year and a half is almost 1 friend a month.
Yeah.
So I want, just like our last message to say, is like, thank you to every single kid. Thank you to all the coaches who allow their kids to come wrestle, even let us go train there. Because we go, like the kids that train with us, we don't have our own club, but we go to Schmieder, we go to New England Gold, we go to Doughboys, Connecticut, wherever we go to train. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank all those people that give us the chance and the opportunity, because we're trying to give our kids the chance and opportunity. And like we said, being young and not really like established, like nationally, we have, like he said, you have your corners of like your people that you mess with and stuff, but we haven't been doing this for 20 years. It's not like we go to New Way and they're like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? It's not like we're still,
for me, people go, what's up?
Well, we're trying to get in there, you know, and we'd like to thank you, obviously, for doing this interview, because we need all the help with like getting us out there in the internet and stuff, because we're old men. We don't know how to do this stuff.
And here's the thing. I'll tell you guys when's your next big tournament you're going to?
We're going to Thousand Island Duels. So
this weekend.
This weekend. After that is Ultimate Club Duels, and then Columbus
Day.
And Tyrant Crusaders.
What are the Ultimate Club Duels?
It's when is it?
Yeah.
September 15th to the 17th.
I guarantee you, I'll make a promise. After Ultimate Club Duels, we're gonna do another Team Alien podcast. Get Mooney on here, do a review of it, talk how Team Alien's been. You know.
Definitely, and just, hey, I know you and me talk, like, people know, I don't want to bring it up, but, like, I do the takeover thing during the season. What you're doing is, like, it's amazing. There's, like I said all the time, people are like, oh, when you going to come out with your rankings? Like, we always joke around about our rankings and stuff. Like, we had our own little interviews going. What you're doing is, like, yo, keep it up, man. Just like, keep it going. Honestly, I'm a little fish to you, like I'll say. Like,
honestly, the best thing that was about you guys' rankings is that when you guys had that live on Instagram, you guys went over each other's rankings. I get a lot of scouting through that as a high school head coach, so I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you guys.
Dude, I know what you mean. I love giving the resources to the the colleges and the coaches. And honestly, Isaiah, with the whole takeover thing, bro, I honestly just view it as like a like a flow intermat type of thing where it's like two sets of rankings for people to look at, you know, and compare to.
Competition only makes people better. We know that.
Like this,
Yeah,
like
iron
you said,
sharpens iron.
I think last time you said there's like kids who I put on my thing. You're like, oh, is he that good? And you go and look and you're like, oh wow, he is. It's same thing. Like I look at it, I'm like, I'm not gonna front. We use your rankings to like recruit kids. I'm like, oh, so who's on the top 10? Oh, well, he has to be good max ranked. Let me message him on Instagram. Hey, you want to wrestle Team Alien?
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear. That's funny. You guys have any last closing remarks?
You're the man. That's about it. Thank you.
All you guys.
I love the blue and gold behind you because I bleed it.
Awesome, dude. I hear it.
Hey, subscribe to Schwartz. It's the next biggest thing coming out in New England.
Yep. Follow it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, right? He's got a YouTube.
But yeah, feel free to follow them. Instagram, like them on Facebook. Their Venmo and Cash App are up there. Feel free to donate them. As you guys have heard them say, they take, they have a great cause going on. So it's a great thing you're donating to.
Thank you again.
Thank you, man.
Of course, boys.